Vince Russo, the former writer for WWE, WCW and TNA, is known to ruffle, quite a few feathers. He has ruffled a lot of feathers over the years. To a lot of people maybe in the business and fans as well. Maybe they do find his, brash, loudmouth persona to be a little bit over the top, to be a bit off-putting. He's had quite big heat with, some notable names in the business, like Eric Bischoff, Jim Cornette, and a few others. And yeah, so he's one of those guys, maybe some might say he's like Marmite, you either love him or you hate him, there's no in between. You have Disco Inferno on the Keepin It 100 channel with Konnan. And it seems that Disco and Russo have kind of got maybe like what you call maybe like a love-hate relationship. I think for the most part they get along well and they're friends, but they do have some quite big back and forths on, to do with the wrestling business. Sometimes it appears to did turn a bit personal at one point. But one thing with Russo, he is very critical of WWE, of the product. He's not a big fan of the product, even though people have said maybe he's from around just after Vince McMahon left early of this year, after all the shit came out, that the product's improved. Now in this, quote unquote Paul Levesque era, there has been a lot of major changes and improvements to the show. But Vince Russo, I guess, doesn't seem to be one of these guys that believes that, and he's been very critical of the show. He does a review show after Raw every Monday, and I think he started doing one on SmackDown after every SmackDown now as well. And he is quite critical of a lot of stuff on the show and the way a lot of characters get booked. But then Russo at the same time, he'll point out to the ratings that the ratings are not like the ratings that they were when he was writing the show, as an indicator that the quality of the product isn't that good. He might have a point there, he might not. But Disco Inferno, they've got this title here in Keepin It 100, is Vince Russo out of touch to criticise the WWE. So I'm going to play this clip. And it's Disco and Konnan, the other co-host there, I believe it's Joe Feeney. And they're reacting, and it's based on what a lot of the criticism Russo's had towards WWE. And so Disco, he kind of goes in a little bit on Russo, very much does bash his criticism that he has towards the WWE. So I'm just going to get into this clip right here, and I'll react as it's going along. So here we go.
I tried to have this, I kept on this conversation with Vince, and his argument was, whoa, the San Francisco Giants made a lot of money last year, but the on-field product sucked. I'm like, Vince, that's not how you measure professional wrestling success. I go, the writing and the booking has always, over the course of time, contributed to whether or not people watch a show, and the number of people watching your show usually drives attendance numbers up, either up or down. If you draw less people, it's going down. But the model these days, they have so much engagement on their programming between YouTube, Twitter, everything. There's like, bro, I looked it up. I went on AI. I said, how many people watch WWE weekly programming on the various platforms besides the networks, right? And then there was a whole thing, bro. You know how many people view WWE content each week? Tens of millions.
Yeah.
They do have a huge social media following. So big numbers on YouTube.
If you're not like the perfect example, Conan, when was the last time you watched Raw or SmackDown at the time slot that it aired on the network?
Oh, it's been years.
So like here we are. We're regular viewers of the show. We never watch it when it airs. Okay, so it's like but we're engaged in the product. Know all the storylines. There's tons of people like us out there that are not, because it's scripted television. It's not live TV. Scripted television is never going to compete against live sports, because if you watch a live sport, you don't know what the score is going to be, right? And once you hear the score, it's like you're not going to go back and watch the game. Because you already know the scores. But
it was the Attitude Adder, though.
Television is completely different.
It was competing with
because
sports,
there's a lot of like acting and segment, so.
And not to mention that for the people out there that watch it through certain means and sites, pirate numbers aren't exactly counted. You know what I mean? And millions of people use those sites. But I wanted to read you.
Bro, all that matters is they're doing record business and the seats are the stands.
But let me ask you a question, Disco.
Yeah.
So, because I this might have gone over my head. So Vince is saying, Vince Russo, right? That because the San Francisco Giants made a lot of money this year, probably on merchandise sales and tickets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the team sucked, right?
Right.
Okay.
He's trying to. He said he's trying to say that I don't care if WWE's doing record business. The show sucks. I'm
Bro,
like, you should never have a job in wrestling business if if that's what you think the wrestling business measures its success on.
And
I do not understand that.
Yeah.
As critical as the fans are, as critical as we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as unwatchable as WWE was for many, many years.
Correct.
And now when you watch the show, me personally, and so are you, you're very intrigued. Joe doesn't watch it that much, I think.
Correct.
But we're very intrigued in what's happening next. We get swerved a lot, and we wrote, and we've been watching wrestling for a lot.
Right.
And the numbers prove that people aren't going to the shows to see something that sucks.
Dude.
You know what I'm saying? How
Parts of the show are
been in the
good.
business that long?
The thing is, parts of it is good, not all of it, in my opinion.
Grew up a WWE fan and say this show sucks. Come on.
Let me read you some of his tweets. So you can
I want to make a big point. Real quick. If you go back since Vince has started podcasting,
right?
Okay, and you just look at his tweets over the years, like narratives he's had, stuff, everything. Literally, his entire shtick is everything that wasn't written by me has sucked.
Right.
Everything.
Disco.
That's what it sounds like.
Might have a point in there.
Like everything that I didn't write has sucked.
Right.
And I'm like,
hey, we'll give you.
Like,
I've always given him his props. Him and Ed Ferrara.
Right.
I don't know what years they were, but whatever years they were there, they did excellent work. I mean, great work.
Right.
Sometimes it depends where you're at. Like we've seen Baker Mayfield. Look how good he's done with Tampa Bay. You see Sam Darnold, just to use a football reference, right?
Right.
Or you look at, we'll use a wrestling reference. Look how better it's going for Swerve in AEW. Sometimes a change of scenery and, will help you. But, bro, you cannot tell me that you that were writing there that this is not good writing. This is excellent writing.
I try to explain it. I go, dude, they're writing very similar to the way you used to write. I go, I can't see how you can't even see this. Like the segments are like, I go, dude, I go, the way they're shooting things in the back. Okay, I go, that's part of creative, right? I say, dude, I go, Vince, remember when we used to go to the shows? Like even at TNA and stuff, you would be walking through the building trying to find creative space parts of the building to shoot things. I go, like, that's what they're doing in WWE right now. Right. I go, and that's going over your head. I go, it's still part of creative. I go,
very slick with the camera angles right now and everything they do there and the continuation.
That's very weird.
I give them credit for that, WWE.
No,
he's completely bitter, and it's consumed, and he can't admit when he's wrong. Like I said, bro, you've been wrong so much lately. It's absurd. We have this conversation, about Bronson Reed after the Seth Rollins. He goes, oh, well, he's just going to be nothing in 3 weeks like Nakamura. I go, well, okay, let's fast forward now. Have you been wrong about that? Well, yes, you have. I go, you're viewing, you're not taking you're saying everything stinks, okay, and you're not admitting when you were wrong. I go, why would people listen to you? It's just like his shtick.
Disco really means all this, or he just likes
if you watch wrestling,
giving Russo shit.
You don't know what
for
you're
shits and giggles.
You go turn on Vince Russo, see if the show was good or not, or turn on Dave Meltzer, see if the match was good or not. Like that. That's literally like those guys' shtick. So it's just
let me read you a few of his tweets because I know Konnan probably hasn't seen him. He can get a better idea too. So Vince tweets: WWE Friday Night SmackDown finished with 1.568 million viewers for USA. 1 year earlier, September 29th, 2023 edition on Fox produced 2.303 million. But according to the real Disco, everything is great. Explain. Here's the next one.
I did explain. I was like, Vince, I go, USA's on fewer homes than Fox. I go, what is so hard to understand?
Right.
I keep reading them. What is so difficult to understand?
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
So he says 735,000 SmackDown viewers lost in 1 year. What's so difficult to understand here? When business is booming due to big money partnerships, but
that's what he says. Yeah. The only reason they're doing
stinks.
Right. I mean, one thing with that, the big money partnerships, does that play a part in it? Yes, but then it's so many other factors. It's merchandising. It's all the all the shows that they do. I mean, they still have a bit. There's a big fan base there with WWE, worldwide, global, probably even bigger globally than it was in the Attitude Era, right? But there's always, I mean, the quality isn't the same and the ratings aren't as big, but that's not to say that, that there hasn't been improvements from the past 4 or 5 years of programming. There's definitely been some major improvements, and I think Russo shitting on a lot of things I do think is shtick, and I think that's where Glenn Disco has a point.
Yeah.
The only reason they're doing good is because of their big money partnerships. Has nothing to do with creative and driving their record business and their seats being filled.
Why would big businesses? Why would big businesses
his shtick is
be giving him that much money if it wasn't something they believed in and it had a track record?
I hate to use this word with the guys. The guy is literally comes across as somebody that he's admitted
Russo calls all the executives marks
for years from the Goldberg stuff. He sounds like he's brain damaged. Like if you can't, you're ignoring reality. And then they said this. They go, dude. I go, the Jey Uso win. Okay, I say you might not have liked the show, and only 1.5 million people watch it, right? The Jey Uso win, all right, that thing was viewed over 40 million times over various platforms.
Right. That's the real number right there.
You know what his reason for his thing that?
Right.
Oh, well, they buy social media accounts and stuff. Like he doesn't think those numbers are real.
Do they also buy the tickets for the fans that are selling out the auditoriums?
That's what I'm saying. I go, what is?
Right, yeah. So Russo, I guess, was questioning what happened, with those big numbers for Russo when he won the IC belt, over 40 million views. I mean, I understand where Russo's coming from. I mean, with ratings, because even though there's been an improvement in the ratings, it's not like the ratings are Attitude Era level ratings from like 98 to 2000 time, But there's still an improvement there. So I understand Russo how he's very critical, and he tries to have that higher standard there when it comes to writing and with characters and storylines. But I mean, there's still what I've seen. In fairness, there is some improvements. I mean, I think the one big storyline that I give WWE credit for would be the Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, Dominic triangle. I give them credit for that. That's like the one storyline that I was like, I want to keep seeing what happens. I can't wait to watch next week and see what happens there. So that's when they're really doing a good job there with episodic television, when they have you like that. But when it's only like one story, and I don't have to watch it, I don't have to tune in to the TV, I can watch a clip on Netflix. Sorry, not Netflix, not yet anyway. But I can watch a clip on YouTube, or I can see it on Twitter, on X. If they had that and had it and applied it to more stories, some of the main, more bigger, like with the main event angles and stuff like that, then it would be even bigger. It would be the product would be even more popular than it is right now. But yeah, to just have like that one story that you're interested in, but nothing else, is maybe that's a sign there that maybe that WWE isn't all it's cracked up to be. But I'm more than a casual fan, but I can see things from a casual fan's perspective. And I think as a casual fan, that's the main thing that you're probably one of the main storylines you would have been interested in, the whole Rhea, Liv Morgan, Dominic story, because people could relate to like a love triangle, or somebody's cheating, or someone's trying to be a home wrecker. People could relate to that. But you know what? With Disco, I understand what he's saying about Russo. When he made a very good point, because when he was saying about how Russo's shtick is like all like, basically, if he didn't write it, it sucks. That's his shtick. You know what I mean? He's like, it's always like Russo wants to make it, he's like the main guy, that he's the only one that can be a writer. And I think Glenn has a point there, because I think back to like stuff with Russo where after a while I realized it was shtick with Russo, and I was kind of maybe for a good few years I was drinking the Vince Russo Kool-Aid and thought everything he said was gospel. But I can remember just little things. I think it was when he was like being critical of AEW. And, Russo always used to say there's no such thing as heels and faces. I think he said one time in TNA, the heel or face thing, I don't get it. He said stuff like that. But then he was being critical, I remember one time, of a babyface doing something that was heelish in AEW. And he was critical of that. And that's when he kind of lost me, because then I thought, well, all this time, Vince, you've been saying that, there's no such thing as heels, there's no such thing as babyfaces. Everybody has shades of grey. So, if a heel was doing something you perceived at large to be was a babyface did something heelish, then shouldn't that's in your playbook then? Because there's no such thing as good guys and bad guys, right? And yeah, Russo's a bit like that, like making out like his yeah, he's the only one that was really can do a good job writing. Because I can remember like even Russo saying like after him and Ferrara left, the only reason that they were successful and had good ratings from like that late 99 2000 period, he has said this before on his channel, he said the only reason for that is because of how things were propped up with the storylines from 97 98, Austin McMahon and all that stuff, from what they did with the show. And that to me, I thought, and okay, I could maybe he would have a point there, but then at the same time I thought that to say that is kind of like a slap in the face to like the guys that were writing the show at the time and put all that hard work, their blood, sweat and tears in, to say that basically the only reason they got high numbers was because of all the shit we did. And he's more or less said that before. He might try and deny that, but I do remember as a fact him saying that before. And that was something that I was like kind of another moment when he kind of lost me, where I'm like, I'm not like the big avid Vince Russo follower I used to be. I certainly don't hang on his every word. I do find he can be an entertaining guy to watch, and he does have some interesting takes on things. But then a lot of the times I do feel it's kind of shtick with Russo. It might even just be stick with Disco Inferno as well, and a lot of the time they know it's just to get views, these arguments that these guys have. And they have a lot of arguments, because it's kind of strange, because very, very early on it seemed like they got along well, they were friends, and they shared very similar philosophies on wrestling, on the business. But they always seem to argue and disagree about stuff. They never kind of seem to, very rarely would they agree, Disco and Vince, and come to the same conclusions. That's what I found anyway. It's like, so yeah, I do like and have time for both guys. And I do understand where Russo is coming from, but then I do think a lot of the time where Russo is shtick though. And sometimes it is a little bit unnecessary how harsh he seems to be on stuff. It's like he seems to have like a go at like how they book the Wyatt Six and like buries that. And I think that's a little bit harsh, based on how this is really a tribute to Bray Wyatt. Like, do you really have to nitpick on how little things get done in the matches, or little things that they should or shouldn't have done, when ultimately this stable has been set up as to pay tribute to the late great Bray Wyatt? You know what I mean? I don't know. Does Russo expect that these guys should be like dominating like the main event picture and Bo should be the champion? I don't think so. I don't know that that's ever been in the plans. And are they strong enough? Are they good enough to like be in that spot? Like, I don't really think so. So I don't know what Russo expects from it. But I don't understand why he could just not be happy for what it is and be entertained by it. That, Wyatt Six is a tribute to Bray Wyatt, who he seemed to really love so much. Loved the character, did Vince. And he's just been buried that. He buried that more or less from the start, where he couldn't even just appreciate like that cool wicked debut that they had, where they laid everybody out, in the grill and everything, and all the special effects. He was already saying and being Mr. Negative, like, oh, they'll be doing 6-man tags in a few weeks or whatever it was he was saying, whether that, right or wrong, but still, it was like he just couldn't. He had to be critical of it, and I guess he's been real critical and stuff on Raw, and I've noticed it's the same thing. He's critical of Dominic, And it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, Dominic's, he's got heat. He's got major heat, you know. He was so hated that, you know, I think maybe they changed about the storyline of that whole, you know, Finn, Liv, Dom thing. I think in the end that, like, Dom and Liv were going to, Finn and Liv were going to get together, and then she would still kick Dominic to the curb. But I think they realised how hated Dominic was, that they had to keep him as a heel, because he's like the most hated heel, and he can barely cut a promo because they're always just booing the shit out of him. And you know, yeah, but he's even been critical of Dominic, you know, slightly maybe critical of Morgan, and maybe some things you'd be critical of Liv Morgan of, but I still think she's done a pretty good job in this story, and it's like been the most watchable thing for me with WWE. But yeah, I mean, yeah, okay, so these numbers, like the numbers you see here for the ratings, they're not Attitude Era numbers. And I know Vince Russo will say, you know, if it's good, they'll watch it, you know, no matter what, you know, because he'll say, like, well, millions of people watched the Oprah when she interviewed Meghan and Harry and all that stuff, you know. But it's not Attitude Era, no, but there's improvements there. I don't particularly like Triple H. I hate to give it like credit to this like new era with Paul Levesque, but yeah, there's been improvements, I guess, under his regime now to overall quality of the product. But I think on this one, it's like I like both guys. They both have good points on the business and on characters and storylines and stuff. They get it. But I think in this one, I kind of side more with Disco Inferno than Vince Russo, because I think with a lot of stuff that Vince Russo does, it is shtick. And I think Glenn hit the nail on the head that, you know, it's almost like the narrative that Vince puts out there basically is, it's no good if Vince Russo didn't write it, and the business desperately, you know, needs him. And look, you know, I'm not going to take a dig like that at Vince. I mean, I don't mean to anyway. Like, he would be great. It would be great if they had him back at WWE as like a consultant or something. I think he'd have a lot of good ideas for them, but you don't have to necessarily tear other people down and belittle their work, even if you don't mean it. That's kind of inadvertently, you know, it wasn't your intention. But you know, still, there's other people there that can be creative and have good ideas. You don't have to like always shit on everything, you know. And yeah, there's some good things there. But maybe with Russo, you'll never really let on that some things are actually quite entertaining, and he maybe likes certain people, because a lot of it maybe just is shtick with Vince Russo. And yeah, that's how I see it. But there we go, guys. Another video. You know what to do. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. Are you a Vince Russo guy, or did you check out Keepin It 100? Give me your take on it, and let me know what your thoughts are on all this stuff with Disco being bashing Russo and his criticism of the WWE. But that's me for now, guys. Thank you very much. Cheers.